Jewish settlement leader Israel Gans looks out over the West Bank hills, which he calls by the biblical name Judea and Samaria, and where wine has been made for thousands of years.
Wine, it's the only fruit that you can taste the ground here. And here in Judea and Samaria, we have so deep roots. You can feel the ground, you can feel the roots of the history. And this make the best wine for all over the world. The history, the tradition, and the ground, the Holy Land ground.
The winery of the Jewish settlement of Psagot, just a few kilometers from the Palestinian city of Ramallah, will soon begin exporting wine to the United Arab Emirates. Winemaker Yaakov Berg welcomes the peace agreement with the UAE, called the Abraham Accords, and cites Abraham as the common ancestor of both Jews and Arabs.
We live in the same, let's call it, same neighborhood. When my neighbor came to me, first thing I gave him my wine. You know, in the Jewish tradition, Abraham represents tent in the middle of nowhere, open to everybody. Every guest can come in.
When Psagot's wine is exported to Europe, the EU labels it made in the West Bank. But in the UAE, settlement products will simply be labeled made in Israel, a move that angers some Palestinians.
I actually think the UAE is embracing anything to do with this right-wing Israeli administration to appease the United States. They've already made the first jump, which is the normalization agreement itself. And I think once that took place, they have gone overboard in trying to make sure they show the Americans that they have no hesitation whatsoever to support the U.S.'s main ally in the region, Israel.
Since the Abraham Accords were signed in September, 150,000 Israelis have visited the Emirates. Business deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars have been signed.
And what we're seeing with the forming of these relations with the UAE, for instance, is that the understanding that at the end of the day, business is business. And if there is a good product which comes from Israel, and there is a market interest for this, so be it.
UAE markets are enthusiastic about Israeli exports, including those from the West Bank settlements. And there is even talk of establishing a road link to transport Israeli goods to the UAE. Israeli officials say these are signs that trade will continue to expand despite the international boycott campaign supported by the Palestinians. Linda Gradstein for VOA News in Psagot on the West Bank.